What's up, people? I'm Shaggy the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 69 of my reviewing and ranking Frank Zappa's guitar solos within the context of the album. And this is 69A, because I'm tackling the Halloween 77 box set. Darn it, I think the little USB port thingy, whatever that's called, the drive, USB drive, it's in my car. But yeah, this was not a CD box set. It was a little USB port thing that you plugged in, and 6 shows were on there. The 6 shows from the Halloween run in 77. I'm going to do those show by show, rank the guitar solos within the context of the show, and then after I do the entire shows, all 6 shows, I'll do one last video that ranks all of them. This is going to be interesting because each of the shows is kind of exactly the same until we get towards Halloween and things get a little bit different. So a lot of it's the same solos in every show. So it's going to be interesting to see how those fall at the end. We have 7 solos for this first show. Yeah, I'm just going to talk through them. I'll put the list of when I'm done, and then I will show where this album ranks, or at least this box set ranks among the other in that final video. But yeah, let's start off with the first show, 10/28/1977. Also, I was going to do this last, but the reason I'm doing it now is MANN recently passed away, or at least word is out there that he has passed away. I don't think I've read an official statement, but I've seen it dropped in various forums and stuff. So rest in peace, MANN. This was the first tour he was on, was the Fall 77 tour, joining Tommy Mars, Peter Wolf, Adrian Belew, Bozio and Herd and Ben there. But yeah, Peter Wolf, did I say Peter Wolf? Joining that group of just somewhat iconic Zappa players. But yeah, so rest in peace, MANN. Fantastic musician. This is for you. So anyway, 7 solos. Number 7, City of Tiny Lights. Really, really short. Not much to this one. Nice screaming intro, then Frank's just off. Kind of short. Yeah, all right. Easily, I think, the least interesting of the 7 solos here. Number 6 is Punky's Whips. Nice screaming intro, and then again, Frank is off. A lot of nice screaming runs where Frank's really kind of getting a little metal. Has that end of the show, build up energy that Punky's Whips kind of do. Don't really think, I think there are better, I know for a fact, there are other better Punky's Whip solos from this run. So yeah, not bad. It's serving its purpose, but I think there are longer, more sort of developed entries into the Punky's Whip solo pantheon, especially during this run. Number 5 is the Leather solo. Short, sweet, a little bit jazzy, a little bit gentle. It's neat to see kind of Frank running through all the changes that the song's putting him through. Really, there's not a lot to this. I don't even know if it's a minute long, maybe just over a minute, but it's just, there's a sweetness to it. There's a gentleness to it. I like this song. I like this solo. I kind of wish it had gone on a little bit longer, of course, but what little we get is really tasty, and it's sort of a nice, just a contrast to a lot of the more aggressive stuff that Frank's dropping in the show. Number 4 is Muffin Man. Kind of a short Muffin Man, but it's shredding Frank. It's the end of the show, last encore number, last song of the night. Frank's got his pedal to the metal. He's just ripping off, shredding here, shredding there. Lettuce is flying all over the place. It's absolutely crazy. Kind of a similar vein as the Punky's Whips, and even shorter than the Punky's Whips. But I just think the intensity from start to finish and it being over that Muffin Man vamp kind of makes this a little more interesting than the Punky's Whips. So it comes in at number 4. Number 3, The Torture Never Stops. By winter 78, The Torture Never Stops would develop into one of my all-time favorite solos, particularly the winter 78 versions. In the fall, Frank was doing this thing where he would start off each solo with this sort of airier, jazzier, kind of chiller, lighter, airier. I think he almost has maybe a delay effect on it that gives it this floaty type vibe. Not quite as intense as something as in the Squirm, but this definitely sort of like not as aggressive, not necessarily first half of the solo, but maybe first third of the solo. And then at some point, there's usually a dramatic shift where Frank starts to get more intense. I don't think those shifts are ever like, they don't come organically where it's like, okay, we're building. Oh, we're shifting. It's just like all of a sudden Frank decides he's done playing around and setting it up with his area stuff. He wants to get more intense. Usually at that point, when Frank gets more intense, the O'Hearn-Bozio rhythm section starts to get that just plodding, just relentless pounding of like, you know, the torture vamp from this era, which would essentially be the entirety of the 78 vamp. And so I think that's usually when these solos get a little more interesting. I think that's the case for this one. We get 3 minutes of that light airiness before he, like, you know, shifts into the next gear. It really isn't until maybe the last 2 or 3 minutes when I feel like this solo kind of finds its identity and finds its focus and is other than anything than just like airiness and then more intense shredding. It's really like the last couple minutes where I just feel like it's Frank's more focused. The band is responding to him a little more. It gets a little more of the intensity that I think of when I think of a torture solo from this era. So it's an interesting journey. Frank's playing around for like 5 or 6 minutes. There's a lot of soloing here. And I do think as this run of shows goes on, these solos do kind of tighten up a little. But it's interesting. It's just maybe a little lacking identity as a solo. Number 3. Number 2 is Conehead, which is just 7 minutes of Frank messing around. Like really, there's so many different ideas in here. It's got that do-do-do-doom. It's like Conehead. It's the instrumental version of Conehead. It's not the You Are What You Is version. You can hear a little bit of it in the Baby Snakes movie. I think it's after, I don't know what it's after. I think it's after Bobby Brown. They play Bobby Brown and then they go do-do-do-doom. It's got this bass run, this bass lick that goes throughout the whole thing. At time, Frank's is like mimicking that bass lick on his guitar. There's a middle section where he just starts playing these really like staccato, funky chords and trying to do other things. There's times where he's just kind of, I don't know, he's just kind of lost and all over the place. It feels experimental. It feels like Frank dropped this vamp in there solely so he can just mess around for like 6.5, 7 minutes. Lots of energy throughout. It gets sloppy. It gets unfocused. But it's fun. It's loose. It doesn't ever feel like Frank's like soloing and then loses like the thread of the idea. It's like Frank never really has an idea. He just has a whole bunch of them and he's going to entertain all of them throughout the space of this. And then at the end, when he gets tired, he's just going to end the song. There's a part where he just kind of repeats the same phrase over and over and over again. Takes a while for like Bozio and O'Hearn to kind of catch on to what he's doing, or at least they're not supposed to catch on because they kind of maintain it. Then towards the tail end of that, they kind of respond to him. So Frank, of course, abandons them and goes off to something else. Some squealing in here, some shredding early. Yeah, it's just really all over the map. I think I would rank it. I really, really like it. I put it at number 2 because the next one definitely has more of a linear progression that pays off at the end, where I don't think this one necessarily does, but I think the overall experience is just memorable. And then the number 1 solo for this, the very first show of the Halloween 77 run, is Wild Love. Essentially, everybody got a solo in this one. And then after everybody solos, Frank drops a solo. Eventually, the place where Frank drops his solo would eventually become Yo Mama. And it's almost like that saying, like just really sparse drum intro from Bozio. So the first part of these solos, it's the squirm. Frank's doing that squirm lick. This version of Wild Love, this version of the squirm, is Bowling on Sharon, Bowling on Karen, Bowling on Sharon, whatever it's called. The one that would be on Transfusion. That would be edited and shortened. This is a longer version. I think the longer version pays off. I think the development of Frank's ideas pay off. I think that culmination in the end where we get that peak and then that last like 30 to 40 seconds of like kind of returning to the intro where things are sparse and a little bit airy and almost like, oh, we're done. And now let's cuddle for a little while before we like go our separate ways. It's just an awesome, awesome journey from start to finish. And if you know the Bowling on Sharon from Transfusion, this is that, but just with a little more ingredients, a little more flavor, and a little more time to develop, and you get to hear all those different parts. Bozio is fantastic in this. O'Hearn is fantastic in this. Towards the end, Frank starts dropping some sort of Ship Ahoy-esque VCF type sounds like there and there. So we get a little playing. But yeah, and then we get that just calmness at the end after the craziness of the solo. But yeah, that would be, I think, my number one for this because it's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, that's what the list looks like. Those are what these 7 from this show are. I know eventually I'm going to be cutting and pasting and making a massive list, so I'm already putting the shows in there, so I don't have to deal with that later. But yeah, that's what it looks like right there. Yeah. Pretty good solos. I don't think this is like, I just did the 81 Halloween like a video or two ago, if you want to check that out. I don't think these solos are up at that level. I think the Wild Love and the Conehead are pretty fascinating listens and might be comparable, but the overall intensity of the solos is definitely not what that 81 shows are bringing. Though these are, these are Frank, and the Bozio O'Hearn thing is fantastic. These are good. But compared to those, I'm not sure they're that good. That's all I got. When I do show 2, I will then rank the shows, see which show is better, make that an ongoing thing for this. This one is obviously number 1 at this point. But yeah, that's all I got. Let me know your thoughts on these solos, things I messed up on, things you want to share, all that kind of stuff. Subscribe, like, share, listen, and go listen to this. Go listen to this. Comment, and then go listen to this because it's great. It's really good. It's a really good shows. Great run. Great band. Rest in peace, Ed Mann. Fantastic musician. All right, that's all I got. Peace. Thanks for watching.